So, outside of everyone being completely morally deprived and only being able to speak in "we have so and so at home" type memes and like "so and so understood the assignment," and then if you scroll underneath the comments, it's the most morally deprived, inhuman, hypocritical, low energy, flaming fucking garbage that you can feel the worthlessness and the moral lack of compassion from people just from reading the comments. Um, on top of that, I grew up being very socially isolated. I thought the same way that everyone else thought growing up. I was a healthy, happy, normal, carefree kid. Actually, probably a lot more social than most people when I was a kid. And as I got older, for some reason, I fell into the category of complete and absolute rejected loner that nobody wanted anything to do with. And at first, of course, I just had the initial reaction of like, depressed, wanting to owe myself, and I still do, but for different reasons these days. Um, and feeling depressed and crazy and things like that. And that just kind of became my placement in society. And now that I'm almost 30, and now that everyone is crazy and lonely and insane, and nobody's winning anymore unless you're one of the 2%, um, it's interesting because I am so pissed off from the traumatizing, isolated childhood that I had growing up and teenagehood and all of the attempts that I had, and now this traumatizing, even worse thing we call adulthood, that I genuinely cannot relate to anyone. Anyone. Literally, the only people that I can relate to are a handful of niche, just as equally traumatized, crazy schizophrenics on apps like Twitter, which are very hard to find. And outside of that, I literally cannot relate to anyone, like anyone. And I'm not playing the unique game. Believe me, it is a living hell. And when I say it is a living hell, what I mean to say is that, like, earlier today, like, I was alone with my own thoughts for literally just like a couple of hours. And I had my little creative schedule broken up for a little bit. And during that time, it made me realize how truly unfathomably sick in the head I am, and that my thoughts borderline make no sense to the point of like, something that is a mental disorder that is borderline dysfunctional, and that I feel so crazy and sick in the head. But I've noticed that I'm a very unique and creative thinker, and I'm very detailed, and I guess you could say old fashioned, although I really prefer the term inventive. And I don't relate to this generation that does nothing but say bro at the end of every sentence and speaks it only in memes, how compassionless people are, how little people think with original, nuanced detail and insight and thought, and how little people have compassion for anyone, and how everybody is just like literally the same morally deprived clone, and just speaks in the same superficial thoughts and languages. But here's the thing, even nice people, like even people on the extremely neurotypical apps like Bumble, even those people I have nothing in common with. Those people can't even fathom that my life has even been the way that it has. Like, even just reading their bio, there's like 5 different million things that come up that has nothing to do with me and doesn't even make sense with my line of the life that I've had. Like, a neurotypical girl on Bumble will be like, "Oh, I'm kind of the bro type, so I'll be guaranteed to get along with your husband and boyfriend." And I've never even had a boyfriend. And even just saying that sounds so foreign to me because I am so eccentric and I have had such a strange, unconventional life. And it's only gotten worse as an adult that um, I can't even begin to talk to people. And I kind of think it's like a loop in a sense where like I've noted there's kind of like these studies that people have kind of suggested that like the more that someone is socially isolated, the more crazy and the more weird that they become. And the more crazy and weird they become, the more they become socially isolated, and then they become more weird and they become more crazy. And I'm starting to get kind of worried at this point because I am getting so stuck in my head and so like lost in my creative projects, which is basically just a bunch of psychological like gibberish, and so lost in like all these details and isolation and sickness and hating everyone and feeling detached from everyone and not even believing that I'm a part of the same species, that even online communities that was already pretty niche anyway, that I kind of found a sense of belonging in, even there I feel no connection to anyone anymore, like at all. And I'm starting to get kind of worried because it's getting to a point where I have nothing to like ground me in life, because everywhere that I go, everyone's either mean, only talks in memes, is terrible at talking in general and just talks like a brain dead teenager, even if they're like 30 plus, or they're just so healthy and so neurotypical that they're not capable of accepting someone who has been as isolated and as eccentric as me. Because if I download those like neurotypical dating apps or those neurotypical friendship apps, and believe me, they are very neurotypical, and I'm not saying this like as a compliment to myself. I am saying this as a literal scientific technical fact. If I try to get along with those girls, and I had this problem in high school and I had it in college, and I definitely have it the few times that I have to meet people as an adult, but they don't even know how to even talk to me because they can't even comprehend the idea of someone being so socially isolated and traumatized, and someone who has tried to owe themselves multiple times, and someone who is so unique in the head. And I don't mean unique like as a compliment to myself. I just mean like it is true that the more socially isolated you are throughout your life, the weirder you become and the stranger you become, and the less you're able to relate to the majority of people. And I think you have to kind of like live an isolated lifestyle and really get stuck in your head and develop mental disorders like maladaptive daydreaming and philosophy and stuff to really understand what I mean. And it certainly cannot be executed in a small little video. But I just felt so sick in the head today. And I've realized that even though I loathe everybody because of how terrible everyone is the main thing. Like, if you talk like, like a moron, or if you only talk in memes, it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But on top of that, everyone is so fucking mean these days, and that's really where I draw the line. Um, and I just don't know how I'm going to survive, because we are naturally social creatures, and I've already been so severely depressed and I've already been so isolated for so many years. And I feel like I can feel my sanity slipping because I don't know what to do anymore. And the point of this video being that I am stuck in a cycle of where I am so far removed from social norms that I can't even begin to get a footing into like talking to people. I haven't had a friend in years. If I have had a friend, it's been through niche online communities, and I barely ever saw those people face to face. And if I do try to talk to neurotypicals, I literally skeeve them off without even meaning to. Like, they can literally just sense that there is something about you that that really puts them off. Like, they are put off from the amount of how much I've been completely alone in my life. They are put off from the eccentric way that I see the world and the way that I see things. They're put off from the fact that I've never had a boyfriend. They're put off from the fact that I don't have a lot of friends or have never had any friends in most of my life. And they're put off by the way that I see the world, because most people I've noticed, especially ones you meet in real life, they kind of just go through life like on default mode. Like, oh, this mainstream pop star was shoved in my mouth, so of course I love them. Oh, this popular thing, of course I love it. And people don't really question anything, I think, because they've never had the amount of time that I've had to really sit and ferment in like what being human in existence is actually about. And I've become such a pretentiously thoughtful person because of the amount of alone time that I've had, that I can no longer relate to almost anybody. And it's just making me even more weird and even more crazy. And it's gotten to the point where like I don't even want anything to do with neurotypicals, and neurotypicals want nothing to do with me. And unfortunately, the people that are neurodivergent are either rare, dead, too hard to find, or they have so many of their own issues that we can't get along with each other. But the point of this being that once you get into a loop of being alone and of being eccentric because you're alone, it just keeps getting worse and worse and worse and worse and worse. And I don't know how to get back on the track of getting along with people because I've been like this since I was 11 years old, at least.